anyway, those things may affect the interaction at the medical discourse. And number three, what communication styles are effective to have a good relationship. Because of the time restraint, let me move on quickly. And I may have to give it an outline, but let me start the general things about the laughter. This is just a starting point, but to think that the embryo echo, maybe many of you know that the novel of the Name of the Rose. So what I want to say is laughter is not always a good thing, and because for example, in the example of this one, laughter is that main element to cause the murder. And also in Japan, laughter sometimes, laughter is regarded as bad behavior, especially, in the female behavior. Good or bad, that depends. But to think of that, the laughter itself, it's a kind of vocal expressive communication style and facial configuration. You can change like ha ha ha. And yeah, as I said, that instead of smile, in case of that the laughter, kind of a sound included, yeah. And there are many, perspectives about the laughter, about the bond of laughter, yeah. And the interesting thing is, about this behavior of laughter. Some parts are innate, and the cultural thing, and emotional thing, and the cognitive, and individual, and social. And interesting thing is laughter is heavily corticalized. And my co-author, Tadashi Nakamura, is a medical doctor, and he should know a lot about the physiological thing, and I'm not aware of that. And he's not available for presentation now. So laughter has many meanings, and sometimes it's an obvious effect on the, positive effect on the physiological things in humans. And, present study based on the physician and patient's interaction, and about that, if you see that the laughter from that patient's, patient's resources, it's really meaningful. This is what we have thought, yeah. So as I pointed out in a slide, laughter is an interactional device, and laughter usually patients laugh, and physicians do not laugh. If the physician laughs, it's a little bit a tricky thing, and sometimes derogative. And it is true that laughter can help, to remedy the patient's, problems. And again, that laughter is a part of the delicate interactional business of presenting problem among the patients. And this is about the medical, focusing on the humor, laughter. Maybe I'm a little bit confused with humor and laughter. I may have to include the humor or joking together with the laughter. The important thing is, that the movement of, facial things, and also the brain things. And humor is a kind of stimuli. And because of that humor, maybe sometimes that patients, encouraged to laugh, and that laughter can help them to feel more comfortable. Yeah. So there are many research studies about laughter related to humor and joking, and some researchers focus on that laughter as a qualifi- qualification of conversational analysis. And this is about that. Maybe many of you know that the Michel's research on physician patients, discourse, and this is a basic thing. But usually the opening question is conducted by physician, and patients respond to the question and then usually try to respond in a positive way, and a physician, try to react in a positive way to the patient's reaction. And this one, those things are based on the physician's, efforts usually to establish a good relationship with patient. And different kind of communication may deteriorate or enhance or that patient's satisfaction, yeah, and compliance. This is the thing. And Maynard Douglas Maynard focuses on the doctor-patient's relationship, and of course that it's a kind of asymmetry. It's not it's not very equal, because of the knowledge and authority. Maybe it depends on the cultural, context. But in the Japanese context, at least, that the physician try to control over the patients, and but this kind of asymmetry has been interactively achieved, and yeah, including the social cultural thing. This is a kind of theoretical thing. Also, this is more like a clinical thing. Therapeutic value of laughter is a very interesting thing, and unfortunately, my co-author is not available. But medically, it has been proved that laughter has some therapeutic value. And maybe in the inner brain there's some enhancement of accepting some negative physiological condition. And here maybe it's not very interesting, but laughter can be categorized genuine, spontaneous laughter, or self-introduced. But last one, pathological laughter, is a bit different from other usual laughter. This is a disease, so it's. I think that we should avoid this kind of laughter. This is quite closely to our research. Yes, root interaction analysis system try to prove that the meaning of laughter in the socio-emotional category in process of physician and patient's interaction. And as you can see that the laugh joking, again, that the joking or humor, it's more, which comes first. But I would like to, include this kind of thing. So what I have to say is laughter, joking is an important factor in the medical discourse. And also, maybe you are aware of the theoretical system of politeness theory. And there, Brown and Levinson, it's a little bit old one, proposed that the positive politeness strategies and the joke. I mean, it's not laughter, but the joke is one of the most important strategies to have a better interaction. It doesn't have to be medical. Here, the specific data is from a female patient, and you can see that the background of this data. And here, you can see a little bit the ethically sensitive one, but look at this. You can see some, this is in English. I'm sorry, in Japanese. And look at this. You can see some, some part of the shows that the smiling or laughing. And I'm sorry, let me just show that look at this, smiling or laughing. It is a little bit tricky thing. And you can see actually in this session, or maybe she ended up with crying. Okay. And so this kind of thing. I have only 2 minutes left. Anyway, look at this. You can see, that the hand covering to camouflage. Okay. And also some, okay. Flying. Okay, maybe it's not clear enough, but I analyzed, one utterance to one the other utterance, and smiling and laughing, and even within the one session, you can see lots of situations, generating the laughter, even actually, weeping. Yeah. Okay. So this is a result of analysis. So based on some, theoretical background of laughter, and also the specific, data here, we discussed that the patient laughs or smiles for some reasons, and the causes of laugh, smile are not clear, but it is assumed that that this patient's laughs or smile trigger, induced, or stimulated by inside and outside reasons. Maybe that physicians, physician may stimulate. And the patient's laughs and the laughter functions to camouflage. It's interesting thing. Sometimes laughter functions, to camouflage things. Okay, I think that the time is up, right? And this kind of thing is a kind of discussion, and for the answers to the proposal, purpose of the study. Maybe number one, the effort to camouflage the negative utterance, the response to doctor's humor joke, and number two, reduce the anxiety, soften the tension. Number three, humor joke. Maybe this is a matter of course, but investigating such a thing, maybe it does help to enhance that quality of the medical discourse, which may, reduce that medical expense. Yeah. Also that the burden of the, the patients. And this is a selected references. Okay, I'm sorry, 1 minute over. That's it. And any questions, or maybe if I have time to do that. That's it. Okay, 1 minute past. 20 minutes allowed, right? Thank you. Oh, so sick man, yeah, from Ukraine. Hello.
Oops.
Okay, I think that that's it for my presentation. To think of the time, I think that I have to stop here. But I don't hear anything. Any questions? Nothing?
I don't think there are any questions, but thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
It was very, very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. You have no questions? Yeah. About the physiological part, yeah, I don't think that I can answer, and my co-presenter is not here. And but if you really need to, get some answer, I think that I have to ask him to answer. Yeah. Okay.
I cannot put my presentation in the PowerPoint presentation. What do I have to do?
Hi, so you go on present now.
Yes, I'm next.
And then your whole screen.
Sorry?
Then it's gonna show a few options, and then one of them is your entire screen when you go on present now.
It says present now, right?
Yeah,
maybe
so you
time is
click on
up.
it.
Present now.
You click on it,
And now, and what?
Now your entire screen.
All your entire screen? But it doesn't show
Yeah.
it now?
And now a little screen is gonna show on your computer, and you click on it.
I did.
So you click on it, and then a blue button is gonna show start presenting. Yeah, good. Yeah.
Okay, let me see. Now, what am I going to do? This? And it doesn't.
Yes. Now we can see your PowerPoint.
You see?
Yeah. If you want, you can make your presentation show on full screen, so we can see it better.
Okay, but how do I do that?
So go on your PowerPoint.
Let me go. Let me see if it goes like this.
Yeah, that's it. Good.
Okay, I'm just gonna keep on going, all right? Because this is a little bit long. This presentation was made by Maria Eugenia Flores Trevino and I, and we are going to begin by saying that this is something that she wrote originally in Spanish, and I made the translation very accurately and very meticulously so that I can show what we meant by this thing. Okay, I'll begin. All the unsuspected, unusual, and unexpected produce aesthetic capabilities in human beings. They lead them to use language in an extraordinary way and to produce a regeneration of text whose characteristics are placed in the limits between what is historical and what is fictional. These bordering texts produce unpredictability. According to Markowitz, we deal with the events which are in an obvious contradiction with our empirical knowledge as fiction. In these texts, where facts and individuals are recreated, there is a hybridization which anticipates the ruptures and interferences in a semiosphere from the artistic canon. From a macro perspective, in the first phase of this research, we study the relationship between a semiotic system, a Mexican film, with the extra system, a social reality preceded by corruption. There are three intentions to focus on: to take advantage, okay, to take advantage from the seventh art as an epistemological instrument, which favors the knowledge about cultural reality, as well as the intersemiotic relationship that happens between fiction and reality in hybrid texts. That offers an opportunity to enter into unpredictability created by the relationships between art and social reality from a semiotic cultural perspective. Two, to continue to work started with an intersemiotic study of the Harold's Law film, another film that was shown in Tartu August 15, 2015, and to check the impact caused by the presence of heterogeneous sources in the system: crime, impunity, authority, abuse, and the disorder generated in the film representation proposed on the Mexican society. The psychological perspective of this sociopolitical issue, which we described as hybridization, is implied in the description of Mexican cinema's semiotic system. We intend to explain that perspective from the consequent semiosphere from which it is conceived. Given the nature of this object of study, we consider that it requires an interdisciplinary approach to maintain articulation and anthropology, sociology, and those sciences involved with a communication process that is linguistics, pragmatics, discourse, and semiotics. The theoretical bases are focused on certain authors, and we have here Lodman, we have Aidar, we have Debord, nonfiction, Rodolfo Walsh, autofiction, we have Gomez Trueba, and the Brecht distancing effect. The reality comes from the performance, and the performance is real. This is a quote that is important to notice, that there is no need to look for an opposite world in another world, because it is found in the present of this world, which includes this and the other at the same time. For example, this reality, and then history, and then fiction, interrelated in modeling. The cultural dynamics is mirrored symmetry. And we have, for example, the social life in Mexico, interrelated with the and very much related to the Infierno, Dante's text, and El Infierno, the film. The law of the mirrored symmetry is one of the basic principles in the inner organization of the sense generator, based on Lodman. It is the base of the semiotic structure. The dialogue between semiotically known and semiotically strange can only be done from a structure like that, since they allow to characterize the thought mechanism. Hybridization, we focus only on the same culture text coexists simultaneously with these traditions with different sign supports: verbal, colloquial, cultural, aesthetic, and cinematic. Fiction redefinition. Thanks to fiction, an artistic image reveals the features and tendencies from its development. Even better for those who could make the writing and scientific investigations. With this, the intersection of cause and the creation of text occur. Hyper Mexican society and hypo corruption and delinquency encoded. The same way an object reflected in a mirror reflects hundreds of images on its materials, the message presented in a total semiotic structure multiplies on lower levels. The system is capable of converting the text in an avalanche of texts. Fiction and identity, just read the fiction is the reason in all the culture. And it is a fiction process which allows human beings to express their reality and the world. The process. Semantic fluctuations are produced when the narrator wraps the viewers and takes them from a point of reality to another, coinciding with fiction. That pendulum-like sensation, coming and going from one film shot to another, can be explained. According to Gomez Redondo, fiction is not the opposite of reality, but precisely an image that can become a reality. Moreover, fiction is the only image of reality that can be known, or what would be the same. Through fiction, an individual can be touched with that reality surrounding him. Sorry, he should be touched. Reality is an intertext originates the process of mirrors and identity. The otherness as a way to see oneself reflected on others' actions. The phenomenon is isomorphism in both semiospheres, favors the dissolution of the border between texts, and at the same time gives way to enantiomorphism, transtextuality. The working mechanism of a text supposes a certain introduction of something outside of it, which from the outside is another text, or the reader, which is also another text, or the cultural context. This is necessary for the potential possibility of creating new meanings which, locked in the immanent structure of the text, become the artistically presented reality. For this reason, the text transformation process in the reader's consciousness, or that of the researcher, as well as in the transformation of the reader's consciousness introduced into the text, is not a disfigurement of the objective structure of which we should be separated from, but the revelation of the essence of its working mechanism process. Theoretical methodological instruments, very quickly, we have the art social life leads to the Mexican reality. Artistic creation of reality is the semiotic interpretation. And isomorphism and anthropomorphism is the fusion transtextuality filmic discourse that leads into the one that we've just described before. That leads to unpredictability or predictability in the film. This is a very important multiple intersemiotic translation processes. We go through historical fact, the textual source, hypertextuality, the hell as a concept, the movie, hypotextuality, imaginary religious concept, cinematic work, and transtextuality, new text generations. It's a semiotic relationship in El Infierno, the hell. This movie, we have the social reality, which leads to cinematic art, which leads to unpredictability, has the basis on social reality presents the cultural knowledge and everyday experiences. Cinematic art focuses on fiction, mimesis, irony, parody, intertextuality, and creation and recreation of reality. An unpredictability or predictability elements would be the disruption of a semiosphere in another. That means from one border to the other. The fiction or reality, isomorphism, having the same form, and enantiomorphism, mirror image. New senses are generated and then explosion. Explosion means semantic intersection that we have, that we get from a new meaning, a different meaning that we are trying to understand, knowing the language and understanding the whole thing. This film is placed within the hybrid texts that are on the edge of fiction and historical and social reality. El Infierno is about a non-fiction and self-fiction whose narrative effect is to make a universe controlled by chance and chaos. As from hyperbole, there is a distancing which ceases to be what it is, that clearly represents reality. This filmic creation becomes a mirror, a window where the viewers and their everyday life are reflected along with its insinuation. Intersexual relations of hyper, hypo, and transtextuality, based on Jeanette, are established by the transformation of a text that through the semiotic process of its translation becomes another, or in which a new structure of meaning has been generated. It is the same and it is different. Social, cultural, and political chronotopes are present in reality and its artistic translation through isomorphic and enantiomorphic symmetry. These world systems are and are not identical, and produce different texts, but they are easily transformed into each other. And just to finish, the opposite is symmetric, but mirror symmetrical. This mirror symmetrical condition is the basis for any process responsible for creating meaning. The assignment of interpreting an artistic text implies a synergy between the text, the reality, and the reader, who has to be aware of the appearance of new meanings. Thus, estrangement, which allows the objective and critical reflection that filmmaking implies and intensifies the semiotic of the fact. And these are the basic references. And that's it, and that's all. Thank you for your attention. I don't know why I cannot see everything at the same time. And I'm going to be next. And I don't know what to do now.
Hi. So how can I help? Sorry, I didn't.
I'm going to present again, but another presentation, okay? So what do I have to do? Again, like presentar ahora? Present now?
Yeah. So
Okay.
you just have to open your other presentation on your computer, and then you can present it. It's just the same process.
When it says the presenting, it says presenting one window or one pestaña.
You can say it in Spanish. I understand it.
Okay, perfecto. Cuando dice toda una pantalla, una ventana y una pestaña, ¿a cuál de las tres le pongo? Porque si pongo toda la pantalla, desaparece todo, ¿verdad?
Yeah, the first one. I understand it, but I can't speak it. But it's the first one, the one that says your entire screen.
My entire screen, then. But my entire screen, and then the thing is by sharing, everything disappears, including me. Now there we go.
Yeah, you won't be able to
see me and see the presentation.
Yeah, but in any of the options you can see yourself. Just if you have maybe your cell phone with you can open the presentation on your cell phone. Like you can open this room on your cell phone, and then you can see what we see. That's a good idea.
Well, maybe yes. I'm going to just continue with this because I don't want to waste time.
Okay.
Can you see the full?
Yeah.
The full
we can
screen?
see your presentation.
All right.
Just maybe put it on full screen so it's bigger for us.
Let me
but
see
if it's better for you this way, it's okay.
Wait a minute. Let me see if I can. Oh, all right. That one, full screen. Predictable or unpredictable psycholinguistic cultural semiotic signals in bilingual journalistic texts. First, I should begin by saying that this is a research project that we are dealing with based on an article. This research project is based on a short Newsweek article about Kuala Lumpur. And Kuala Lumpur, published in English and Spanish, and the titles are Kuala Lumpur Capital Without a Past and Kuala Lumpur Capital Sin Pasado in Spanish. The title itself in each version shows predictable as well as unpredictable elements to be considered and discussed by both English and Spanish readers. Kuala Lumpur was or was not the capital once. Kuala Lumpur here is considered as an uncommon place. And before I continue, I normally begin by asking the students if they know what Kuala Lumpur is, and if they know, then where do you think Kuala Lumpur is? And Kuala Lumpur happens to be the capital of Malaysia, and this is the map where they can figure it out. Now, they look at Kuala Lumpur, the article in English, and as you can see, the article in English has one big picture of Kuala Lumpur and two columns. All right. If you notice, you really pay attention, you see that there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 paragraphs, right? Then we see the one in Spanish, and the article in Spanish has 3 columns. But if you notice, then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 paragraphs, and they have the same paragraphs except that it has one picture, exactly the same as the one in English, but it's shorter, and there is still another picture. There is a reason, based on my knowledge, by comparing the two of them, based on my knowledge of the cultures in English, the culture in Spanish. The article was written by a native of Malaysia, Tan Tuan Eng. When Tan I don't know exactly if he did it in English or if he did it. He must have done it in English, and then what we do is to translate that into Spanish, and we ask our students to do their own version with the English one to try to see how much they can compare it eventually with the one in Spanish. The culture in English, we everybody know that is normally the more the greater. Everything is big, everything has to be direct. Also, 2 columns is more than enough because you have plenty of information there with one big picture that should be more than enough. While in Latin America, I would dare to say Latin America, probably mainly Mexico, I should say, because the Newsweek presentation is in Mexico. Kuala Lumpur here with 2 questions, the more the better. The more we have, it feels like we are like satisfied. We are provided with lots of things, and therefore we as we are happy. We're happy because we have 2 pictures, 2 photographs in color, and 3 columns. And if you notice, as I said before, is exactly the same number of paragraphs, and I should say is exactly the same number of sentences in English and in Spanish. It doesn't say exactly who did the translation in Spanish. Our students, as I'm going to be saying, tried their own version. So we have is based on the short news week, and then we have the second paragraph. After this, the general layout on each article version we discuss. The number of sentences, paragraphs, columns and images is made from similarities, differences found to determine the predictable and unpredictable pre-reading effects. All this is presented, shown, and discussed, as well as the detection of predictable or unpredictable linguistic and sociocultural aspects in both texts, which I already did. So this is an ongoing research project to introduce the 7th semester out of 10 undergraduate students whose major is translation into the field of London semiotics and Torop's into semiotics, both linguistic and cultural, by reviewing the concepts of predictability and unpredictability detected in translated text in English and Spanish. Torop describes culture as an infinite process of total translation in which text can have textual, metatextual, intertextual, extratextual translations. This process reflects communication in a specific culture that feeds a message and creates new codes and meanings. The group of the translation is not something that I teach, but it's a translation course in charge of Maestra Adriana Rodriguez Dr, with whom I practice with this. The present paper tries to describe the search of unpredictable elements, as I said, that are undertaken as one of the leading ways of bilingual article like the one we have selected can take. The possibilities are multiple and depend on the perception from which one decides to depart. The chosen article is from Newsweek magazine with a bilingual English and Spanish about Kuala Lumpur, and each version has 38 sentences with individual layout as well as distinctive number of columns and number of pictures in each version. In this particular article, there are no characters per se involved. It is the description of the city itself in order to publicize its present state, which may also open possibilities for those readers who have known about, heard of the city sometime in the past and can now find out how it has changed. We will have to begin the searching process by wondering if the reader of the English version can develop an idea of where in the world this city is by just reading the meaning of its name. And if either language reader, English or Spanish, has already some knowledge of tin mines, for which Kuala Lumpur is very well known, that can help to identify where this city is located. Lodman mentioned that even though the text could be created in the most objective way, the subjectivity as a reader's perception cannot be avoided. A first step to follow can be detecting the semiotic effect on readers of each of both languages in order to find predictable or unpredictable elements of their cultural explosion. That means semantic interference in a not so familiar topic. From the very beginning, we had to consider that either language reader has a different cosmovision, which predisposes their understanding that is based on the vision, as well as predictable or unpredictable elements, signs, symbols, elements, words that most likely come from the semisphere with which the particular culture and language provided the reader himself, herself, and cannot be set aside nor overlooked. Therefore, an article like this, it reads differently depending on the proximity or familiarity of the reader with the place described. Let us consider 2 points. The the reader's cultural aspect. Each reader has their own set of degrees of reading comprehension, pragmatic perlocutionary force, and language interpretation, as well as his/her particular reading interpretation. Each reader reading speed. Does it coincide with the comprehension of the structure of what is being read? What elements can cause differences? Age, gender, socioeducational level. At whom is the text aimed? Who does it really get to? And who buys it? The magazine. Predictability or unpredictability element states is given from the author's position. He may be presented to you as incomplete by being in a dynamic condition, while from an external point of view, that of a reader, an editor, or a publisher, will tend to provide the text with a sense of completion. Our objectives are to analyze the process of translation from the translation perspective, that is, his/her linguistic and sociocultural knowledge that starts off from his/her own interpretation of content when trying out making meaning through any mechanisms available, such as dictionaries and all similar contexts. Then they should develop into semiotic functions based on his/her individual understanding of the original and resulting message with and from both target and source text, languages, and cultures. To analyze the process of translation from the translation perspective, each reader reading speed, no. This one, to define and explain the concept of predictability that the Roman conceives as a continuum from those predictable elements involving a logical process that may explain cultural cause and its effect when working with choosing translating possibilities. Then to reflect on and discuss about the unpredictability of those signs which represent a sudden, abrupt change identified as explosion of senses, meanings that can be created both negative and positive effects on readers of either English Spanish text. To introduce the concept of semiosphere applied to translate text where the cultural representation through and in language is perceived. Semiosphere is the sphere of semiosis in which sign processes operate in the set of all interconnected, Umwelten, plural from German Umwelt, environment. The psychology, the environment factors collectively that are capable of affecting the behavior of an animal or individual. It would be the set of all interconnected meanings. The concept was coined by Gabdullovna in 1982 and is now applied to many fields of knowledge, including cultural semiotics, biosemiotics, zoosemiotics, geosemiotics, and so on. The concept is treated more fully in the collection of Lodmer's writing published in English under the title Universe of the Mind, a semiotic theory of culture. Further objectives are to analyze the process of translation from the translator's perspective, his/her linguistic and sociocultural knowledge that starts off from his own interpretation of content, as we said before, and as we said earlier, to develop into semiotic function based on his or her individual understanding of the original and resulting message within and from both target and source text. The translated concept in Spanish is previsibilidad, predictibilidad, there are two, is considered for discussion too. Previsibilidad refers to vision, predictibilidad refers to prediction. So there are two different ways of dealing very much with it, more or less the same thing. In Portuguese, it's previsibilidade. It is only one word, one term. The focus goal that is pursued with this research project is to help develop learners' competence to practice translating more or less simple sample text based on the concepts involved. For your attention, thank you very much. And that's it, and that's all. Monica.
Hello, Armando. Wonderful presentation. Sorry? For arriving late, but the timetable is sort of...
Yeah, no problem. I presented twice this time because I was presented with a colleague. I'm speaking in English because of the whole thing. Everybody should understand. Monica speaks Spanish because she's from Argentina, and I know that Dana, you said, speaks Spanish too, to a certain extent. But maybe she doesn't understand me because I speak very fast. They call me Speedy Gonzalez.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any questions or any comments? I would rather welcome the comments so that I can continue making my presentations better, particularly the last one. I've been trying to do all my best to help my students to translate from English into Spanish, even though sometimes I make them translate the opposite way. So I come up with another magazine article that is already both in English and Spanish. I begin with the Spanish and try to see if they can figure it out, the possibility to do it in English. And I have a lot of fun, I have to say. Questions, comments, complaints? No? Good.
A wonderful presentation, Armando. You're very fast, always. I mean, it's admirable how you can read at such speed. And it was very, very interesting. Maybe we would need a couple of days to, I don't know, for everything to sink in. And then maybe if we have questions, we can write to you.
Absolutely.
And
yes, please.
I think everybody has Armando's email. And if not, well, through his Apple, we can access your email, because there might be questions, maybe not just now.
Right. My email is there, so please feel free to ask me any questions or make any comments or whatever.
And also
thank you very much.
This presentation is being recorded, so other people will probably see it in the future. And I'm pretty sure that there's gonna be available a list with all the emails from the professors who presented.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
So, hello, I'm next, or what should I do now? It says that Armando now
Armando, you have to stop presenting your screen. Just click on the, that.
So...
I'm sorry, that is done. Thank you very much.
Okay. So do you see? Is it okay? Do you see my presentation? Okay. Okay. Hello, dear participants of International Congress. I am Alina Vasileva. I'm from Republic of Sakha-Yakutia, Russia, and so I convey my warm greetings to everyone from distant Yakutia, a region with an unusually rich culture and harsh winters. So as a part of today's speech, I propose to consider the topic of studying the peculiarities of national and cultural specifics in the language consciousness of the Sakha people. So I'm the representative. Okay. Today, in the context of globalization processes, the problem of preserving the national identity of the people, its traditions, customs, becoming especially important, and the understanding of the national specifics and traditional culture of ethnic groups is being actualized. So, since the language consciousness is determined and conditioned by the way of being of an ethnos in the world, it is interesting to study the elements of traditional culture in the language consciousness of the Sakha people at the present stage of the development of society. So we rely on the definition of language consciousness as a set of perceptual, conceptual knowledge of a culture bearer about objects of the real world. The study of the process occurring in the depth of the language will reveal the national and cultural specifics of the language consciousness of the people. So the task of the study is an attempt to identify the meaning that representatives of an ethnic group put into certain elements of traditional culture in their everyday consciousness. So let's consider the proposed topic in the following way. So the study of language consciousness, identification of the peculiarities of national and cultural specifics, and I will touch upon the topic of the peculiarities of the national culture of the Yakut people, preservation and linguistic representation. I will tell you about the Yakut Associative Dictionary, and I will give some examples of the analysis of the basic elements in the Yakut language consciousness on the material of this dictionary. So The study of the concept of language consciousness and its theoretical foundations has been actively conducted since 19th by leading Russian scientists Leontiev, Tarasov, Ufimtseva, Zalevskaya, and others. The phenomenon is considered as a human information dictionary, which involves the identification of semantic components, their psychological characteristics. Using language units, these components are stored in the linguistic memory of the people. The worldview system is based on the construction of a special picture of the world, which occurs due to the activity of the set of thought processes representing the concept of mentality. So these processes are followed by the lexicon. And it is possible to study these cultural and social systems in different cultures, thereby revealing the specifics of the language consciousness of the bearer of a particular culture by means of externalizing the images of consciousness. That means through an associative experiment, which consists in identifying stimulus words and registering the first responses, reactions of the people, for example, and which allows to reveal both the systematic content of the image of consciousness and show originality of the worldview of each culture. So national culture is a set of traditions, customs, rituals, norms, and rules of behavior is recorded not only in the results of economic and everyday activities of an ethnos, but mainly in its language. And we will also refer to the markers of national identity as concepts that form the image of a nation: territory, traditions, culture, and religion. So before proceeding with the analysis, I would like to briefly tell about the peculiarities of our culture, its uniqueness. The founder of ethnopedagogy, Volkov, gives a very suitable statement. I have always imagined the three sacred places of the Yakut in harmonious unity. So you see concepts. All of them give direct access to the richest spiritual life of people, to language, history, and traditions. The selection of these concepts containing the origins of the material and spiritual culture of the Saha people is reflected in the implemented target program of the Republic of Sakha-Yakutia Revival of Traditional Culture, which presents 4 directions. As you see, the goals and objectives of the program form certain vectors. From Homus to Vaili, from Olonho, its epic, to Olonho theater, to new opera, and etc. So, psycholinguistic. So let's talk about Yakut Associative Dictionary. Psycholinguistics concerns the study of the peculiarities of the functioning of the dictionary in the head of a native speaker. What physiological and psychological processes of development determine its work, which can be revealed, among other things, with the help of an associative experiment. So the materials of our analysis were obtained from the data of the Yakut Associative Dictionary by Zamarshikova and Romanenko, created on the basis of math associative experiments. The experiment was carried out according to the method of a free associative experiment among students studying in the various specialties in Yakut City from 2005 to 2010.
Excuse me, Alina, should your slides be moving? Because we are on the first slide.
Oh, sorry. Do you see?
We can only see the first slide. I don't know why. Yeah,
Now
it's
now?
good. Now it's good.
Yes, now
Yeah.
it's
Oh
okay.
no. So sorry. Yeah, so that was the relevance of research again. And I talked about the aim about language consciousness. So you can see the plan. I talk about the study of language consciousness. Here certain concepts: language consciousness, lexicon. So by Zolotova, it's a dictionary in the head of an individual. And I have, here there are markers of national identity, as I mentioned: language, territory, traditions, culture, and religion. So about the peculiarities of Yakut national culture, so target program, revival of traditional culture, includes certain vectors. And so I'm here. So about Yakut Associative Dictionary. So as a result of the experiment, the Yakut Associative Dictionary was created, which includes 140 stimuli and responses from 1,220 respondents, students, I mean. So the structure of the thesaurus, which is available in an electronic form, includes direct, that it means stimuli and reactions, and reverse, reaction stimuli dictionaries. So let's take a look at the reverse and direct dictionaries separately. So next, about so you can see here direct dictionary and reverse with stimuli and reactions stimuli. Okay, so about reverse dictionary. What is the core of linguistic consciousness? Zolotova notes that psycholinguistic criterion for isolating the core is based on the psychological concept of the connections between the units of consciousness in the human psyche, access to which is possible through an associative experiment. The associations obtained in the experiment are designated by a word and reflect the degree of their relevance for a native speaker, which is the basis for distinguishing between the core and the periphery in the space of the mental lexicon. According to Fimtseva, the associative field of this or that stimulus word is a fragment of the image of the world in a particular ethnic group, reflected in the consciousness of the average bearer of a particular culture. So this worldview of the bearer of culture is made up of a set of concepts. So it's called conceptual sphere. The structure is presented in the form of a circle, in the center of which lies the main concepts. The core is the dictionary meanings of one or another lexeme, which helps to identify the specifics of its linguistic expression. Behind the core are the near, distant, and extreme periphery. Personal experience. Okay, next. As a result of the analysis of the materials of the reverse associative dictionary of the Yakut language, we have identified 2,063 words with the largest number of connections, which represent the central part of the associative network. So thus, the first 50 words were identified, which constitute the center of the core of the language consciousness of modern Yakut speakers. The most important units of language consciousness are, for example, kihi, person, jol, happiness, oloh, life, ichugay, good, ule, work, sırdık, light. Also significant units are jie, house, küs, strength, dil, language, doydu, homeland, küster, strong, aymah, relatives. So historical experience formed the initially steppe culture of the Sakha people into self-sufficient cultural phenomena, the northern culture. This is an important circumstance for the preservation of ethnic identity, national self-awareness, and ethnocultural uniqueness in the modern changing conditions of globalization. So about the direct dictionary. As a part of our research, we analyze associative verbal networks united by general concepts of an indicator of national identity. These are stimulus words related to the concepts of that I have mentioned before: territory, tradition, culture, and religion. Based on these markers of national identity, we selected the corresponding stimulus words included in the semantic field of these markers from the direct Yakut associative dictionary. And I will bring some interesting examples of the interpretation of reactions that are reflected in the worldview of the Yakut people. So, territory. The territory of Yakutia is represented by different landscapes. There is taiga, tundra, steppes, mountains, rivers, lakes. Each landscape dictates a specific cultural context. The territory where the Yakut ethnicity lives as a marker of national identity includes Alas. This is a round basin with a lake where the Yakuts lived in ancient times. So you can see their reactions from direct dictionary and stimuli from reverse dictionary. Alas is the center of the sacred landscape, since the natural Alas landscape is defining in the for cattle breeding. The Tuguruk round reaction in traditional culture symbolizes unity, which is reflected in the national dance Asohai, where the Yakut dance in a circle holding hands. This is the idea of unity with nature and with space. So, culture and tradition. Most of the territory of the Republic is located on permafrost, which allows us to speak about a unique cultural phenomenon in an extreme cold climate. Cold is not only a geographical phenomenon, but also has a cultural significance in the self-identification of peoples living in Yakutia. So you can see the most frequent reactions to the word stimulus tumli, cold. Cold itself is the first association about Russia, in particular about the North, among foreigners, people of a different national culture. Yakutia is a constituent entity of Russia, which in terms of its natural and territorial conditions has no analogues on the planet, preliminary due to the harsh continental climate. It is distinguished by long, harsh winter and short summer periods where people were able to adapt, support each other, and accumulate a unique experience in farming in extreme climatic conditions of the north. Apply the first technologies for housing construction on permafrost. Next, one of the original elements of the culture of Sakha people is the ritual event Sir. So you can see interesting reactions and stimuli to the word stimulus Sir on the slide. This holiday was founded in honor of the deity of equestrian cattle Juhugui and on the offering of a bloodless sacrifice to heavenly deities. It is considered the Yakut New Year. So this entailed an unprecedented creative energy for the through revival of all components of the national holiday: blessing, rituals, national dress, cuisine, dishes, ritual complexes. You should visit this holiday here in Yakutia one day. And an extremely important factor in the preservation of identity is the memory of the past, since it largely feeds on the consciousness of an individual, collective society. And next, the main traditional form of management of the modern Yakut is cattle breeding. And we can see an interesting element is the stimulus word silgu, horse. The reflection of the cult of the horse in Yakut worldview since ancient times is connected, first of all, with the fact that the horse was of great importance not only in their economy, culture, and everyday life, but also played a great role in the spiritual life of the Yakut people. It is sacred animal of the Sakha people, and it is reflected in their language consciousness of modern Yakut culture bearers. And the last interesting example element is kutsur, reactions. You can see interesting reactions. The concept of kut is defined as the soul, the essence of a thing. In Yakut mythology, each person contains 3 souls. Yakut, mother soul, developed in the mother's womb; Borkut, earth soul; and Salgunkut, air soul, penetrated into the child at birth. After death, the deities take away the mother soul from the person. The earth soul turns into earth, the air soul into air. The ratio of the three concepts Kut means full value, integrity of human existence, man's belief in his divine origin, his awareness of the trinity of Kut soul is associated with the concept of the unity of man and nature. So, conclusions: the preservation of basic elements in the core of the Yakut language consciousness reflects the understanding that the Northern culture for many centuries has been building up its identity with the cultural trends of both European and Asian civilizations without losing its Northern essence. Thus, on the example of our research, you can see that the structure of the category of national identity is built on the following components: national self-identification, historical memory, and the revival of the traditions of the people. Thank you for your attention. Thank you. Okay.
Monica, do you have a question?
Yes, well, not exactly a question, but just a reflection. So very interesting. I am sorry to say that I had no idea. And this last concept of when a child is born of his three main things. I mean, I would really, from now on, I will start learning about your culture. So very, very interesting, and how this concept of culture influences.
Thank you
everything
very
we do.
much. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Sorry
very much.
about the.
Thank you.
Sorry about the presentation in the beginning.
No, it's okay. We'll move forward. And if I have any questions, I will mail you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know if I'm gonna pronounce this name right, but Professor Rieko MATSUOKA, do you have a question? I see your hand is raised. I think she just forgot her phone number. Professor Leonor?
Very interesting paper. We enjoyed very much. It's another cosmovisionism, and you must be open to understand different cosmovisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Professor Leonor, you raise your hand again. I don't know if it was. Oh, it's okay. Your audio is muted. We can't hear you.
Sorry, is it raised, my hand?
Now it's not anymore, but I think you want to turn it off and then you ended up raising it again. But it's fine. It's okay.
Tell me if now it's not raised.
Now it's raised.
Now it's raised.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's right. So is the next professor already here in the room? The presentation now is diagnosis of emotional stress and communication. Is the professor already here?
I think she is not here. We can go on to the next, isn't?
Okay. So the next one is Rodriguez and Garcia. But maybe we can wait 5 more minutes because it's actually supposed to start in 5 minutes. Just to see if the professor is gonna show.
Professor Samigulina is not there. Samigulina was supposed to be the next one.
Yeah, I think they're not here yet. But maybe we can wait until, so for me, 10:50, because that's the time it's actually supposed to start. And then if they're not here, we can wait for the next presenter. Is it okay like that? Okay.
Sometimes their internet is not working. There are technical problems. I think so. Professor Rieko MATSUOKA, did she present it? Yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I presented it already, and I'm thinking of leaving here because of the time, and in Japan it's nearly 11, p.m. But it's great to see you, Lionel, Professor Lionel. Hello, Monica. It is quite amazing to see you, Monica, and Professor Lionel. Yeah.
To see your faces, it's interesting because we have been in touch only changing emails, and
Yes,
we cannot imagine
yes.
how you are. So
Yeah.
it's very nice to see you, and we can see.
It is very
Besides the different cultures,
yeah.
we see
live in
that
the opposite side.
your faces show how rich is our Congress. From the ethical point of view, we have representatives from all over the ethnias, and so all, I don't know who does it, but so many. And we have the main goals, we have the main purposes,
It is
and we are together
right.
trying to fight for a better world.
Thank you. I mean, it's amazing to see, even if it's online. Actually, yeah, it's a great honor.
We are near. Yes, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yes, yes, yes.
I see, for instance, Professor Armando Gonzalez from Mexico. I
yeah.
don't, yes, yes, now I can see your face because we have been changing emails.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
Sorry, I could not attend your speech because I was
Yeah, no
journeying
problem.
to
I talked
be
about
in different sessions.
yeah.
And since they are competing in the same time,
Yeah.
it is not possible to stay in the.
No problem.
But
I talked about the laughter, laughter.
well, I
And
think yes.
mm,
What do you feel about this Congress? Are
oh,
you?
actually this is my first time to be, online international congress, and but I've been doing the online classes for my students, so this kind of platform is more or less that the family. I've used the Zoom and Teams and collaborate. Not this one, but I'm glad. And the amazing thing is I can see you, Professor Leonel. Yeah. And I wonder sometimes, how you're doing, and you're so elegant and intelligent, and to me that you're a kind of role model. I really want to be like you in maybe 10 years or so.
Really, I am a grandmother.
Oh no. No,
Yes.
not really.
Yes, yes. I
Yeah.
have 6
Grandchildren.
grand
Oh really?
children. Yes, yes.
I remember I met your daughter and maybe
Ethel.
right. Yes, right. Yeah, time flies. And also Ukraine professor Zil, he responded to my presentation, and he asked me to review some, journal article, and it's very, honorable thing to do that. And
Was my daughter or my son?
your daughter, I met your
daughter.
daughter. Yeah.
My daughter.
Yes, right.
How nice.
Yes.
She's here together with me.
Oh, really?
Yes,
So you live together?
yes. Do you want to see her? I will call her.
Oh, wow. It would be great. I wonder if she remembers me.
Ethel.
Monica.
Well, let's tell the people here that many of us know we have been doing conversations personally, and it's a wonderful experience.
Rieko,
Yeah.
Hello, how are you, Rieko?
Hello. You were the
Nice to meet you in this hard times.
Yeah.
Love for you all, missing you all. And I hope next time here in the beach, we can have the Congress here. What do you think about that, Florianopolis?
That's
near
wonderful.
The sea during the summer.
Yeah.
Okay?
I wish
we can
I
talk
could.
with the waves.
Yeah.
Perhaps I
that's
can
wonderful.
show.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Online Congress. Yes. Yeah.
Mãe, não dá para ver hoje, está muito nublado. Mãe,
não dá?
Não dá. Vai ter que mexer o computador. Não, deixa, mãe. Depois tu manda foto.
Tá bom.
Blood. Okay. See you. I think that I have to. Okay. Monica, I'd love to see you maybe face to face. Yeah.
Definitely. Anytime.
Yeah, thank you. Brazil. Thank you. Thank you, Leonel. Let me leave here. Yeah.
Professor Maria da Graça visit us here. Do you remember Florianopolis?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. It was a nice time.
Nice
Do
time.
you remember what I loved the most?
You went to the lake, our lake place with so many
Yes.
sand. Do you remember that you walked on the
Yes,
sand?
e a duna, e o
Duna.
Tomás. A praia da tia Joaquina, isn't it?
I hope
it was a good time.
Yeah, some of you can visit us. Perhaps Monica, who is nearby. Have you ever been in Florianopolis? Because people from Argentina visit.
I haven't. I don't know Adriana, who's down there. Have you ever been, Adriana, to Florianopolis?
Very briefly. Hello, everyone. Couple of hours.
Hello.
Adriana.
But we can go.
It's beautiful.
Adriana, have you been here?
Yeah, passing through only. Not staying in Florianopolis. But it is beautiful.
Well, perhaps we can continue our session.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Okay.
So I don't think Professor SAMIGULINA is here yet. So maybe we can do the next presentation. It's Rodriguez and Garcia. Or maybe Professor Maria Graça Pinto, you can present yours, because I think you're the one next to that.
Well, I would like to say something. Who is going to present is Angela Lopes. See? And I would like to say something. We have submitted our abstract a long time ago. And at that moment, Angela was a PhD student. Today, she is professor. So she is lecturing my curriculum units because I'm retired. So it's just to say that she is professor and no longer student. Well, we are all students, that's all. But anyway, now she's already professor. Okay.
Nice to meet you, Angela.
Nice to meet you too, Professor. It's a real pleasure to be here. And thank you, Professor Maria da Graça Pinto, for your words. So I will start my presentation then, and I'll be as quick as possible since there are still people who are going to probably show up and present after me. So I will try to share my presentation with you, and please, if something is not visible, I'll be happy to fix it. So I assume you can see my presentation, right? I cannot see you, so okay, thank you. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to greet everyone here, and let me start by thanking the organization of the Congress, and thank you for having me. So my title is Grammar Complexity and Idea Density in Second Language Portuguese Writing. And then, is that sentence correct or good? And obviously, my co-author is Professor Maria da Graça Pinto, also present. And the presentation is actually based on part of my PhD research, and focuses on two parameters I use to measure quality in writing. So sentence complexity or grammar complexity and idea density, which I will explain in a minute. My research aimed at exploring connections between reading and writing in Portuguese as a second language, and started off by assessing reading through a closed test. So my participants were a group of second language Portuguese advanced learners at Faculdade de Letras, Universidade do Porto, whom I taught 6 lessons, all based on reading literary press columns and writing about them afterwards. So basically, I meant to assess students' abilities to understand deep readings, insofar as they were inferential, multi-layered texts, and then use those linguistic resources that they had read before in order, so I had the expectation that they would use them in order to write their own texts. So today I'm focusing mostly on the parameters I use to assess my students' writing after reading, and I'm not so much exploring the reading end of the continuum, although I will refer to the closed test I applied earlier, so keep it in mind, please. First of all, I questioned myself as to what could the ingredients of good writing be? And moreover, how can you grasp them and use them to assess quality in second language writing? So the main goal was to assess students' writing in Portuguese as a second language as to its complexity, but also to its richness. I assumed that advanced second language Portuguese learners were fluent writers, given the fact that they had been studying Portuguese, in some cases for years, and they were, on the other hand, university students, so their literacy skills in their first languages, I assumed, must be good enough to have an impact on what Goodman and colleagues called biliteracy. So I also assumed that students who had scored higher in that previous closed test that I talked about a minute ago would have higher scores in their writing. So I also finally assumed that students who stated in a questionnaire that I had given them before, so that they read frequently, were also the ones who would be able to transfer that reading fluency and skills into their writing. So when I first thought of assessing students' writing skills, I was certain that advanced writing implies more than correct spelling or correct grammar. So it goes certainly beyond producing correct sentences, but what is it that makes good writing? So I got stuck on Lecky's title that I'm quoting here, Good Writing, I Know It When I See It. So we all recognize good writing when we see it, but its ingredients are often elusive and highly determined by literacy experience. So grammar complexity and lexical richness seem to be key ingredients of meaning making. So sentence complexity stems from unexpected constituent organization in sentence, from diverse syntactic maneuvers and functional domain of the impact words have on the making of a sentence. On the other hand, what words are at stake here? So good writing is often composed of less frequent words, of less words, but more meaningful. And all this, of course, requires precision. So how can we measure these parameters? So I had heard about the NUN study in Professor Maria da Graça Pinto's lessons. So I thought that using the same kind of assessment Susan Kemper had used before to analyze a large sample of autobiographical texts could also work for my study. So just to give you some information on this study very quickly, it aimed at following aging consequences in a large population of nuns in the US. And part of this study aimed at studying the effects of aging specifically in language. In order to accomplish that, Susan Kemper and several of her colleagues analyzed autobiographical texts produced by the nuns early in their lives, when they were admitted at their convents, and later in life as senior members of the same congregations. So this led to interesting conclusions. High literacy skills positively impact cognitive functions later in life and protect brain functions from dementia effects. Of course, young nuns who scored high on lexical and grammar measures, that I will describe in a minute, were the ones that kept the same abilities in old age. There were indeed age effects to be found, but not as damaging as the ones observed in nuns who did not score that high when they were younger. So this brought an extra interest to my study, actually, and to my teaching as well, because it became clear to me that I could have an informed impact on my students' cognitive reserve by helping them expand their literacy skills beyond the utilitarian view of reading and writing in a second language. So Susan Kemper established two measures of writing quality: idea density, that comes from Kinch's notion of proposition, and sentence complexity. Idea density is a lexical measure, and sentence complexity is a grammar measure that depends on working memory storage and integration capacity. So they were found to be correlated, but these findings were mostly for English as a first language. So I wondered if I could get, or I would get, the same correlation for Portuguese as a second language. So idea density measures propositional representation through linguistic analysis. So Kinch sees the proposition as a verbal unit composed of the verb and its arguments. So idea density has to do with lexical precision and richness, like I said before, whereas sentence complexity stems from the capacity of temporarily storing linguistic items in order to integrate them later in the sentence. The need to store and integrate in complex sentences mostly comes from the insertion of left branching elements, so left of the verb. This is mainly an important issue if relations are not apprehended, so SVO relations are not apprehended, especially in the case of language users who are not very much used to unconventional sentence organizations that mostly come up in writing, really. So all in all, both parameters are intrinsically related to literacy and also to biliteracy skills. So idea density, as I said before, has to do with the propositional content of what we need to understand or want to convey, whereas sentence complexity is connected to our ability to use linguistic tools to make that content work to the best of our abilities. So the verb is the main distributor of function and meaning in sentences. So a propositional relationship connects it with its main argument structure. That is why, in order to calculate idea density, we select verbs, adverbs, adjectives, prepositional phrases, and conjunctions in a simplified method used by Kemper, but also by Chand and colleagues in 2012. So sentence complexity is scored according to the working memory effort that a sentence demands from the reader. This means that, for instance, relative clauses left of the verb or multiple subordination are highly scored because they demand such an effort. So I had 14 participants. They were all advanced Portuguese learners, and they had all answered a questionnaire about their reading habits. Additionally, they also did the closed test I talked about before in order to assess their reading fluency. So these two materials were important in order to compare the results that we got from the writing, from a qualitative point of view as well, in order to complement the quantitative data. There were 7 nationalities among these students and 8 first languages. As reading-writing tasks, they were asked to read 2 literary press columns in 2 different lessons. So after reading the texts, discussing them, attending to difficulties like vocabulary use and grammar, all in class, they were asked to write 1 synthesis of the first text, Olhar para ontem, and a personal text about what their place is by using the same title of the second text they read, O meu lugar. There were no limits imposed to both texts as they were written as homework. So the texts were then rated as to their idea density and sentence complexity. Only the last 6 sentences were scored since the texts were generally very, very short, and only 7 of the 14 participants were considered because they were the ones who actually had done at least one of the tasks and had written at least 6 sentences. So for idea density, I counted the number of ideas per 10 words. And again, following Kemper and Kinch, ideas correspond to the main structural web attached to the verb and also to connectors. And sentence complexity was scored higher for left branching or multiple subordination, as you can see in the table. Oh, sorry. So results showed that there was a clear correlation between idea density and sentence complexity in Portuguese, the second language, following the same findings from the non-study, but in this case for a second language, not for first language. When I compared these results with the ones I had got previously in the closed test that these participants had taken before in order to assess their reading abilities, there was a link between reading abilities and writing abilities. So participants who had scored higher in reading were the ones who produced more subordinating conjunctions in writing, at least in one of the writing tasks. Overall, Table 3 shows that idea density and sentence complexity have low scores, showing that participants faced obstacles when writing. So, and additionally, the questionnaires answered by the same participants showed that the ones who often read in Portuguese were the ones who scored higher in writing. Specifically, the readers of literature, even if the books they had read were not in Portuguese, but in another language. So all in all, we can say that there is a correlation between results on a previous closed test and the production of subordinating conjunctions in writing, which means higher reading proficiency in this case equals more chances of producing complex and idea-dense sentences. I also found a correlation between idea density and sentence complexity in both writing tasks, as well as among both of these parameters, which meant writing tasks did not determine the outcome, and complex sentences are indeed built with precise and rich vocabulary. So there was no intra-individual variability due to task differences, but on the other hand, there was high individual variability, mostly due probably to cross-linguistic literacy habits that students did not in general have. So literature seems to help good writing, and so does reading for pleasure. And good readers tend to write better texts. So my conclusions were based on the quantitative analysis, but also on the qualitative data that I collected. And there are a few ideas that came from the results that I got. So good readers tend to be good writers. Good second language writing is also made of precision, richness, and the ability to build meaningful, complex sentences. The syntheses produced by these participants were shorter, simpler texts that only conveyed the more superficial layers of the symbolic content of this literary press column, the first, Olhar para ontem. Then when asked to write a more personal text, which corresponded to the second task, participants wrote longer, more interesting texts that went deeper into the several layers a place can represent for each person. So they had to talk about which was their place, geographical place, but also an emotional place. And sentences here were more complex. So the best writers were the participants that usually enjoy reading literature and who actually had already read literature or non-literary texts in Portuguese. So we can observe the contagion from model that IMEC stands for. Most of the participants were reluctant to write, and some even refused to do it as they did not find it useful. So second language learning is also an opportunity for biliteracy to evolve, which in turn contributes to the resilience of learners' cognitive resources throughout life. Thank you.
Any questions?
Well, very interesting research. I don't know in Portugal, but in Brazil, students, even at the university level, the undergraduate students, they still have many problems for writing. You know that even at the university level, 1% of students are functional illiterate. They do not understand the texts they have to read. And so we have a lot of problems. I think that the main difficulty is caused by the poor the early literacy learning, because they didn't learn how to read, and so they have difficulty for understanding what they read, and so they do not enjoy reading. And if your conclusions are that the best writers are those who read, and I agree with this, that this is the immediate cause, but the initial cause is because their early literacy learning was very bad. I don't know the situation in Portugal, because nowadays in Portugal they are changing a lot the learning and teaching situation in the basic elementary school. But how is it now in Portugal situation?
I think I can speak for the children in grade school, because my daughter is 9 years old, so I'm more aware of what happens with smaller children now. I think that they read a lot in school context, and they are very much motivated to read. Somehow I don't always agree with the text that they read. I think that the way they teach reading and reading for understanding now, not the first stages of reading, but I think that they always go through the most I think predictable path. So always organizing questions that are very simple to answer. Never or usually they don't ask children to think about the multiple layers of the text. So they want the children to look for the easy answers along the text, instead of I think promoting some I don't know, maybe diverse answers from that text. I think that probably has consequences later in life. So when they need to read deeper texts, they need to reflect on them, they don't know how to do it. So they look for the answers to specific direct questions. And I don't think that enables critical thinking, really. So I would agree with you, Professor Leonard. I think it starts in the very early stages of of learning how to read and write, and then it just perpetuates through life. I think it tends to be better, though, or I hope so.
Perhaps we can discuss this subject with representatives from other countries to see how is the situation. I understood that Professor Angela, now you are a professor, not a full professor, but I think that she mentioned that the questions are what we call localist question. In the question, the word, the central word is already in the text. So the student has only to match those two words, and this does not mean that he had understood what he read, because it's like a localizationist question. Isn't the case? Okay.
Definitely.
But perhaps we can discuss what is the situation in your countries.
Can I?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Angela and Grasa, for the very interesting piece of research. And obviously we can apply it at every level of educational systems. And I just wanted to share what I think is happening at the university level. My students who are BA, MA, and even PhDs do not read enough. And this is very well reflected in the way they write. It's not only in terms of terminology, but the formulations, everything that you were talking about. And I can see a very big difference between my MA students, for example, in the end of 90s and students now. Because I think position of reading in general, it's not just education, but where reading is in our life. And not just reading in a classroom, but reading beyond the classroom, something that we call extensive reading. So not just education, but the whole situation. And maybe they do read, right? But what they read is perhaps this, right? They use that. And the position of the library, we have students who haven't been to a library throughout their studies, which is unthought of. I mean, so yeah. Okay, thank you.
I totally agree with you, Professor. I think that the BA students that I had this semester complain about the amount of text that they need to read. And they actually don't read as a habit. So yes, I think it's the same situation.
It's not only foreign language, it's the first language, right? Yeah. That's where the problem is.
Yeah.
So you don't really develop, as you say, habits, right? There's no transfer of habit.
Right. So there's no biliteracy, really.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, that's sad.
May I?
Monica? Yeah.
Okay. Well, Adriana and I, we are both teacher educators, as you well know. And what I wanted to say that we're suffering exactly the same problems that everybody has, but we teach first, second, Adriana third, and both of us fourth. And there is hope. There is hope. Starting at least at first year professorado, we work intensively on their reading and comprehension skills. And we see some of the results in fourth. So there is hope, but it's tough, really, really, really tough. So yes, it's an everyday job. to do this. And as Danuta was saying, this question not only academic texts, but everyday reading and understanding and getting the gist and all of that. So yes, it's very, very important. Thank you for your presentation. Very, very interesting.
Very nice.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Very good.
Professor Armando, what Armando Gonzalez, I don't know if he's still there. We should like to know the situation in Mexico. I think that it is not different because Mexico in the PISA evaluation is very low in the reading and reading abilities. So, but I think that he is not here anymore.
I'm sorry, can I make a comment?
Sorry?
Can I make a comment? So I'm a student and I just entered a university last year. So in school, I learned German and English, and I noticed that especially in the tests we do to enter university, we have to do an English test. You can choose other languages, but in my case, I did an English test. And the test is basically reading comprehension and grammar comprehension. And I noticed that many of my classmates, the classmates that spoke better English, that understood English better, they didn't necessarily did better on the test, because it's a lot more about knowing how to find the information on the test than understanding what that information is. So I think maybe that's why, like Professor Leonor said, many times when we get into university here in Brazil, we don't have that the comprehension part, the interpretation part of reading, because we are taught to know where to find it on the text. So we don't have to think about it. We just have to find it where in my textbook is that said. So we have it. I don't know if that's the right way to say, but when we do tests of any subject, for example, biology, I don't need to understand how the, I don't know, reproductive system works. I just have to know what is written on my text and have it by heart so that I can write it on my essay or on my exam about that. So I think that's a big problem, and here in Brazil, we have that very strongly, and I don't know if that's like that in other countries, but I think that's part of the problem.
I would say, Anna, that people are probably trained to pass exams, and they don't learn how to really appropriate the meaning of texts. So maybe that's the root of the problem. So the priority is to pass the exam and be successful in it, regardless of the level of comprehension that really should exist.
And I think there is another thing. One thing is to see written down, and another thing is using it. There you need a jump. This is the problem. We may see written, but we cannot write it. Mm-hmm.
Well, you have to combine reception with production.
Exactly.
So that's the next stage, right?
Yes,
so like,
yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, well, I may understand, but never use it. Mm-hmm. It's the idea of the density, the idea density, for instance, and all these things.
One of the ways of one strategy to get to this is, instead of making those localistic questions, is to ask the student to write an abstract from the test. So he or she will show if he got to the essence, to the microstructure of the test, and this is the way to see if he understood. And it also helps to develop writing, because both things are being achieved, developing comprehension and developing writing an abstract about the test. That is,
it's why Angela said that sometimes they say they refuse to write. It's not an easy task. You need to practice it. And that is the point. It takes time. It's time consuming. And now we are accelerating.
Not only that, I think, Professor, because what happens is that the open questions are harder to assess. So marking those kinds of tests is much harder for teachers as well. So it's easier to look for the right answer and mark it correct. So if we need to assess writing from reading with different parameters, it's even more time consuming for the teachers. So I think that's also one of the reasons.
I think there's a system that kind of balances it, and I know the IELTS test uses it. Is that, and the Cambridge one as well. So when you're asking the question, you don't necessarily say if it's right or wrong, or if it is on the written text. So you have the option of it is unsaid, and I think just that option makes it a little bit trickier for the student, because he actually has to go to the text and see if it's right, and if that part, because sometimes like the word of the question, it is on the text, but it's not that information that it's referred to. So for example, in reading comprehension, you have true or false questions sometimes, but not only should we have true or false, but also the option of it isn't said on the text, because then we have to go and actually understand what the text said, so that we can see if it actually says what it's being asked.
But that's what happens with correcting the false statements as well. So that drives the reader back to the text. So he needs to check why he thinks that it may be false.
Yeah, that's also a very great idea. I'm very, like, since I just got out of school, we have different types of testing methods that different teachers use, and I see that in university is very different. In university, we actually have to know what we're saying. So, like Professor Leonard said, in university, I have to do many abstracts of what we've learned. In school, I never had to do that. I always had to just like mark A, B, C, or D, and I think that makes us just have the answers by heart, and then 1 week later we just don't remember it anymore.
I'm very glad to listen to the statement of a student. Not only from the professors, but also from a student. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. It was very interesting. I'm actually studying to be a teacher right now. So I love these kind of experiences.
It was very nice seeing. Yeah, I think that Maria da Graça must be feel very proud to have formed a student like
I am.
Angela
And
Lopez.
I am. I really am. And she knows that. And she knows that.
Congratulations.
Professor
Good
Leonor, something that I have learned in my life, that I have been helped by some important professors like you and others also. So now it's my role. I have to do that to those people that I think that deserved it. So it's what I'm doing. So I am very thankful to many people who helped me during my 70 years. And now it's my turn. So that's it, what I think that I have to do. But I am very proud, exactly. I am very proud. She is doing very well. The students enjoy her classes, and I am very, very glad. Very, very glad.
Thank you.
And thank you to all of you who have been listening, and, well, talking about a problem that we have to deal with.
Professor Leonor, you're muted. We can't hear you.
But perhaps we can finish this session, because I think that the other people, I even had sent a message to Rodriguez. I send the link to join us directly, but I did not succeed. Okay. So you are invited to our farewell session. It will be a pleasure if you can join us with a glass of wine. And this is what we can do for our farewell event. See you later on.
See you later.
See you later.
It's
Sorry
in another
that
room. It's in another room. Yes? Yes.
Yes, it's in another room.
It's another
if you go
room.
to the program at the web
Yes.
page, you check there, and then you
Okay.
get the right room.
Okay.
Is
Thank
it
you.
5:30? Is it 5:30, Rosangela?
Excuse me?
Is it 5:30?
No,
Portuguese
it's,
time?
no,
Well,
it's
well,
4 o'clock in the afternoon.
No, please. 4 o'clock, Lisbon time.
Yes.
4 o'clock. 4 o'clock.
Lisbon time.
Sorry, is
Lisbon
it
time.
4:30 or 4:30? I think. Please check, because
That's why I'm asking, because it was mentioned earlier that it's 4:30.
No,
Yes,
it's not.
yes.
It's
In
not.
the Rosangela, this happened with me yesterday. In the program, the time in the timetable, the hour is wrong. It is written 12:30 Brazilian time. Yes.
In the book of abstracts, it says 12:30 or 4:30.
Oh, that's why it's wrong. Yeah, I think you should just follow the program.
Okay.
Oh.
This is yes. If you go,
Yes, but
can you see my screen now?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
look
So
in the program. Look in the program.
Yes. If you go here. Oh no. So I'm wrong.
Yes,
I am
yes,
wrong. Sorry.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Sorry.
yes,
Yes.
yes. So
This is the right thing.
It is not changed. Okay.
Yeah. I'm really sorry. You should never rely on your memory. Better to check what is written there.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
You're all old.
Oh, I'm really sorry. Yeah.
Rosangela,
Just follow what is written
yesterday it happens the same thing with our meeting.
Yeah.
Because the time in the timetable was a 1/4 Brazilian time.
Yeah, we have been working in so many versions of the program that you should not rely on memory. Really, it's just go for what is the last version that is on the web page, and that's the safer way to keep us all together.
Just a minute, I will write down for all of you the link, so you can.
So it will be in 20 minutes, is it?
Yes, exactly.
Para todos.
No.
O culto fizesse colocar.
40 minutes.
Colocar no chat.
40 minutes.
Já copiou para 20?
Já está copiado.
Tá, ok, vai lá. Já vou te, tá.
Tá.
Ó, já vou te ensinar. É aqui, ó, mãe. Tá vendo aqui onde tem esse...
O quê?
Peraí. Aqui, ó, tem aqui, ó, esse quadradinho com balão de história em quadrinho.
Bom,
aqui é
bom.
o chat, ó. Aí é só copiar. Pronto. E aqui tem que enviar.
Everybody can copy.
Eles estão, né? Porque eles já estão nessa sala.
Não, essa não é essa.
Ah, não é essa? É outra?
É outra.
Ah, tá.
This will be the link for the farewell ceremony. Okay?
So, see you later.
12:30 Brazilian timetable. Portugal is 4 hours more.
Yes, perfect.
4 o'clock here.
4:30.
And other countries, I don't know.
Armando, what time is in Mexico?
Each one must look.
Cuarto para las 10.
Calculate.
Okay, so 10:30 in Mexico then.
Okay.
Mexico, right.
Okay.
Some
See you.
moment later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
¿Y qué hora estamos ya en Mónica, en Argentina?
The same as Brazil. Now it's 11:43.
11:20. All righty.
See you later. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody. All right. See you later.
See you.
So it's 4:30, right?
Yes.
Portuguese time. Okay, just to make sure. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes,
Thank you. See you then. Bye-bye.